Hello, I'm Andree. Welcome to my class today. I am so excited that you're here. I love teaching art and crafts to students of all ages. My classes will consist of two projects, one for adults and one that is designed a little easier for children with adult supervision. This week, we are going to resurface some terracotta pots. Okay, let me tell you about the pots that I found in the local thrift store. This one was the outside pot. It was beautiful. Already somebody had painted it and done a gorgeous job on it. I knew though that I wanted this size of pot, but I want to do a different finish on it. It's going to be what I call a fossil finish, and it's going to have fossils and shells in it. The second pot was this pot, and it didn't have anything on it, but I knew that it would be a really nice pot for our child project. The next pot was this pot, very cheerful and pretty. It's got a porcelain finish on the outside of it. I want to do something different to this finish, but I'm going to save that for another class, possibly closer to Christmas time. Well, let's get started. I'll see you in class. I'm anxious to get started on our craft projects today. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to buy some supplies for our projects, and I'm going to list those supplies and put them on a Facebook page that I've started for our class. I'm also going to go through those products as we go and tell you what they're going to be used for. The first product that you're going to want to get, and you'll notice our terracotta pots are now white, it's because I've used this and I'm calling it a primer. It's an all-surface paint, and I look for a paint that has these little symbols on it, and I especially want to find one that has that little wine glass. Then I know that this paint can be baked onto a surface, and I wanted it baked onto our terracotta pots because terracotta is pretty porous and pretty chalky, and I want to make sure that I have a clean, fresh surface that I'm going to put our new surface on, our fossil finish on this pot. I want it to stick. So this is what I've used to prime the pot. Next, you're going to want to find some grout. You can find this at any place they sell tile, bathroom tile or floor tile, and you want to look for a pre-mixed grout. The reason being is that it's going to be less messy and you're going to like it better than having to try to come up with the right consistency by mixing it yourself. You're also going to want to get some paint of some kind that's a brown. And we're just going to make a glaze out of this. So if you decide that you don't want to do brown and you want to do black, you could do that, but you're going to want to make it pretty thin. And with this grout, or any grout, you're going to want to make sure you're wearing gloves, and you're going to want to make sure that you've got some kind of a art, either an apron, or in my case I like to get men's shirts and cut the sleeves off, and then they cover whatever I'm going to wear. And you're going to need a brush. This is a little brush that I found in a child's paint set, and it was $1.99 at the craft store for several brushes, but I liked this one. It's a 1-inch brush, and I'm going to be able to use it for a lot of projects that we're doing today. Then you're going to want to get popsicle sticks, and these are the really big ones. When you buy a package, there's several in it, but I use it for a variety of things in my craft room, stirring up paints, and in this case I'm going to use it to frost the side of our pot. And see, I've used it to mix up our grout. What I did with our grout is it was pretty darn thick. You can see how thick that looks. I wanted it thinner, or the consistency of frosting. So I added some water. I always keep water in my craft room, and this is just a mason jar with a sippy cup on top. Then for this project, you're also going to need your fossils. And so I got from the local florist section at my grocery store, I got some ferns, and then I have a whole container of shells that I've collected over the years, and we're going to put ferns and shells in this fossil project. I will tell you that the fossils that we find here in Colorado, they are either going to be a rock that has ferns in it, or they're going to be a rock that has shells in it. And those fossils that we find in rocks, those are 80 million years old. That's kind of amazing to think about that. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you what our project looks like. I'm hoping that you're able to see all these little indentions. Those are fossils or shells that have fallen out over the years of the rock. This is one where you see the fossils are still stuck in the rock, and that's how we find them lots. We'll find a rock that has a lot of shells stuck in it. Then this is another fern right here. You can see the stem and some of the petals. So now I'm going to show you how to get started with your frosting of your pot. And you want to be careful, don't get this all over your floor. I'm wearing gloves so that I don't get it on my hands, because this grout, once it is stuck on something, it is almost impossible to get off. I have a little Lazy Susan here that I got at a craft store that was very, very cheap. And I've used it and used it and used it. If I get to a point where it's pretty dirty, then it can become disposable. All right, so see, I'm frosting down the side all the way down to the bottom here. And I'm going to just bring it around like that. All the way to the bottom. And I'm pushing it a little bit over where I had finished before. And I'm going to do this whole section right here so you can see. Only do about 1/4 of the pot at a time, because if you do more, you're going to end up having it dry on the edge. And when you get all the way around to where you started, it's going to be too dry to put any fossils into. All right, I think I'm ready to put fossils in. You'll note that I frosted right over the lip that was there. So that means there's extra grout there, so that'll take a little bit longer to dry. So now that I have it on here, I'm going to go back and just kind of tap it a little bit. That'll flatten it out in places that are sticking out quite a bit. All right, we're ready to put our fossils in. I have a little bowl of water, and what I have in here are some shells that have a really nice scallopy pattern. I have some smooth shells, and then I also have my fern. And the reason that I want them to be wet is they're probably going to release better from the grout if they're wet. If they're dry, they may just stick to the grout and the grout will come right back off with it. So here's my shell, and I am going to first do some of these patterns. So I'm going to find a place that I want to put one, and I'm going to push it in, and very carefully pull it out. Oh, I love that. I hope you can see it. It's all scallopy. And I'm going to put it in probably 3 or 4 places. And I'm just rolling it on in the grout. Then I'm going to carefully pull it off because I want some of the indentions to still show. In between putting those on, you're going to want to make sure that you rinse your shell. Let's put one right here, because you've got so much grout stuck on it. Oh yes, that's great. I can see all the little scallops in it. I'm not too crazy with how much that stuck out, so I might tap it a little bit. But now we have the indentions of 3 shells. This one over here, I'm going to try to make it a little more pronounced. So you can come back in and do that. Okay, I can see that. Now you're going to want to put your ferns in. Your ferns, you're going to get your fern leaf wet. If you don't have ferns, then you can also use some houseplant leaves. I've seen people use all kinds of ivy and things like that. These are supposed to look like the rainforest plants that were here way back 80 million years ago. So I'm laying this on, and then I am carefully pressing the leaves down. And it doesn't matter that if it's perfect or not. You just want it to put an indention in. Okay, I'm going to pull it off. And I have a nice stem right there. I'm going to want to look and see where I can add another one of these. And this one's going to go right here. Want to rinse it first though. And it doesn't matter if it goes over the shell a little bit, because quite honestly, when you find the fossils with the shells in it, they're just all piled onto each other. So I like the way that's sticking in there, because I'm thinking that it's going to show the pattern real well. Okay, so I just carefully pulled that out. It's got a couple places that I might tap in a little bit, but now I'm excited because I can see my shell indentions. I can see some fern indentions, and I want to now start putting in my shells that we see the whole shell of it. Okay, so I could take this shell, but I want to use it all the way around. But I'm going to get a handful here. And you can find bags of shells in your local craft store. I like getting these that are all different shapes and sizes. Hope you can see that one. So this one I am going to put going in, and I want to put it somewhere where I don't already have an indention from a shell. I'm going to put him right there. Kind of clean it off a little bit. This one. If you get some of the grout on a shell, you want to try to take some of it off, because once it dries, it's there. Then I'm going to take a shell and I'm going to put it facing out so that this is out. And I think I'm going to put him right about there. when you buy shells from your craft store, you want to make sure that you try to find some that are colorful. And they usually have ones that have several different types of shells in it. Or if you're lucky enough to live near the ocean, you might be able to find some on the shore. That's where I got quite a few of these. See, I like this one. It's got a lot of color in it. And I'm going to put this one right about, I have an ivy, or the fern there, so I don't want to put it there. I'm going to put it right there. You're going to want to put shells of all different sizes, because that's what you're going to find in a fossil rock. They're going to be all different sizes. So I've got a little one. I'm going to leave it out. Oh, I have a really teeny tiny one. I'm going to put it up here. And then I want to find one that's got some color. I want both sides to match. Okay, so here's one. It has a lot of color. It's also very deep inside here. I don't know if you're able to see that. This one I know I'm going to need a lot of grout for. So this is one that I'm going to put down here on the lip, because we put a lot of grout on to cover that lip. There, so we've got, it's sticking out quite a bit. I may change my mind on it, but let's leave it there for now. Oh, and I'm finding some cute little tiny ones and some, oh, this is pretty. This is one that has gotten broken and the ocean has just washed it, and it's just this pretty little piece. I'm going to put it right up here. And this one's got some gray in it. That one might be kind of pretty as well if I leave it out, and I'm going to put it down here. All right, I think I have as many as I want. I can come back and add some later if I want to, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I want to make sure that I kind of take my brush and kind of tap it a little bit here on the top. The reason being is I want this up here to be a flat surface. So I don't want to frost the whole thing yet, but I want to, whoops, that's on there, but I want to make it fairly smooth so when I do come back to frost the bottom that I can get it level. There we go. That's not too bad. So this down here, I want to clean it up with my brush and kind of get a little rounded edge down here. Kind of like you would do with a cake if you got it down on the plate. Okay. You can either, I tend to put it back in my water, but you could probably put it back in your bowl of grout. All right, so I'm going to kind of let you go ahead and go around and work on your pot. Let me tell you though, if you need to take a break, make sure that you have, first of all, dampened what you were working on a little bit. Don't do so much that you get rid of your indentions from your shells. But this side here, you're going to want to kind of brush it a little bit to where it's flat. And the reason being is that when you come to your final section and you've gone all the way around your pot, you're going to want to just put those two sections together seamlessly. and it'll be easier if this section is flat. Now I wanted to show you what you can do if you want to add more shells. So I've got quite a few over here, and I'm actually probably going to want to put a few more in there. But I see a section right here where I put the two seams together as I was working on this, and I want to put a shell in right here. So what I'm going to need to do, because that's almost totally dry, let's see, oh, here's a really pretty one. So I'm going to want to take some of my grout from my grout bowl, and I'm going to want to fill it up really good. So see, I've got it inside the shell all filled up. Then I can come to that section where I want to put and just push it in, and it is stuck there now. You can see that. Okay. All right. Go ahead and go all the way around and finish your pot. And when you come back, I'm going to talk about what we're going to do up here. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a section at a time, and you're going to just keep working around and working around until you get to here. Then you're going to frost all the way down that side and tap it a little bit and start putting your ferns and your shell indentions in, and then go ahead and put your shells in. And then once we have that all done, we will do the glaze on it. So I will come back with you. Let me tell you what to do though if you need to take a break. To take a break, you're going to want to cover your grout, because if you don't, it's going to dry out. And so I just get big, you can see that I just took it out of here, big plastic bags. And you want to test it. Is that going to fit in there? Yeah, I think so. And then just slide it in there, and it'll stay moist actually for about a day. But this project is one that you really want to start in the morning and keep working around and try to get it all done in one day. Sometimes I can't when I do this because I've got so many other projects going on in my craft room that I need to get finished. So I'm not always able to finish the whole pot. All right, I'll see you back here once your pot is completely covered with your indentions and your ferns and your shells that go in and your shells that face out. See you after a bit. Hi, I'm back. I have finished my pot and I let it dry. And what I'm doing now is I am doing the glaze that I talked about. I have finished the top of my pot with the glaze that I had left over, and I just kind of put a flat, really nice flat surface there. I have then taken and put a little bit of glaze on it, so it's a little bit darker than the light grout that I had. The glaze that I have made is 1/4 of a cup of water, and it is a tablespoon of the brown paint that we were talking about. If you want it darker, you can add more. I want this to be kind of light though, so I made it lighter. What you're going to do is you're going to come around, and wherever you have one of your shells, your indentions, you're going to tap some of the glaze into it. Then you're going to take a damp cloth and just tap it a little bit so that some at the very outside, just along the little edges there, is going to come back out. What that will do is it will show all the little shells. It'll just make them pop out. Then whenever I have a leaf, like there's one right here, I am going to fill it up really good. And again, I'm going to tap it. What that's going to do is it's going to leave the stem. You're going to be able to see it better. And then it's going to, as it dries especially, it's going to leave it to be more pronounced, and you're going to be able to see all your fossils. So I'm going to go around, and if you want to go around with me, we're just going to put a little bit of glaze here and there. Now here is one of my fern fossils, and I'm going to put a little more glaze there because I really want this stem to show. And we're going to come back and tap just a tiny bit. Want to leave the glaze inside the stem. I'm going to continue going all the way around my pot. And if you've gotten some drips, don't worry, because they once you come back and put the glaze on, it just kind of blends right in. So while we're doing this, I have to tell you something funny. This is, and it was a secret, I was not going to tell you guys, but this is my very first YouTube video. And it may explain to you some of the some of the things that I've said and the techniques that I've blundered on. It's much harder trying to film a class than it was teaching a class in the little craft store that I had, and I had students sitting around a table with me. Filming is just so easy to blunder, and I just did one blunder after another. But the biggest blunder that I did was I had filmed a whole segment and then went to turn the camera off and realized I had actually turned the camera back on, and I had spent 20 minutes teaching how to put fossils onto the pot and had not filmed a single thing. So at the end of this video is my little blooper segment that was filmed when I realized that I had not filmed a single thing. So I had to start all over again, and I was pretty frustrated about that time and a little nervous, and I was thinking, oh, I just can't do this. But I started thinking, no, I really want to teach again, and I am going to do this no matter what it takes. So I'm hoping that this video and my future videos are going to be useful and enjoyable. If there's ever any question that you have, I have a Facebook page that I've set up for us, as I had said, and there's going to be the opportunity then for each class that you can ask me questions. And also, I believe there is a segment on YouTube under the videos too where you can also do that. And we can hopefully, I can be very clear at what I'm teaching. If I'm not, you can say, hey, Andree, I do not understand what you are talking about, and I can explain a little better. Like I said, it was much easier when I had students sitting around me. We would even kind of laugh about it and say, you know, oh, Andree, you better explain that a little better. We don't understand. And then we could go back and I could explain it a little bit better. So I hope now that you are able to see, I'm glazing all of this, and I'm starting to be able to see my shells really well, the little indentions of shells. And I've gone almost all the way around now with my glaze. And I actually think I'm close to being done. I'm going to set this aside now and let it dry. And we're going to start on our second project, and this is going to be the project that we are going to be able to do that's a little easier. So it's going to be a student type, child type project that you can do with a child. I always say, let's be sure that these projects are done with adult supervision. And because I just really don't want to have a child try to do some of these projects by themselves and either make a horrible mess in your home or do something that they could make them sick or something. All right, so I set our pot aside that we put all of our fossils in, and we're going to let it just sit there and dry. A lot of the glaze will kind of seep into the grout, but that's okay. It has done its job, and I can see where my fossils are at. And once I do a glaze over it, it will really, really make those just stand out. What I have on the table in front of me is the project that we are going to do that is our easier project that you could even do with a child. And what we're going to do then to our smaller pot is we're going to decoupage it. Decoupage they've been doing it for many, many years, clear back to the 1700s. And they used to call it lacquering, and women of wealth used to love to sit around and cut out pieces of pictures that they would find in little booklets, and some of it was even pictures that had been hand drawn, and they painted them, and then they would lacquer them onto a little memory box or furniture. Some of the furniture from the 17 or 1800s is absolutely gorgeous, the furniture from France and England, and they were basically decoupaged with art, but they called it lacquering in those days. Now we do decoupage. Decoupage means it's from a French word meaning to cut out. And lots of times what people do when they're decoupaging now is they will use a tissue paper method, and they will cut out little pieces and put it onto whatever they're wanting to decoupage. We're going to do something that's going to be for maybe a little girl. If you don't have a little girl and you don't have a little girl to work with you today, then I'll do one side showing you how we can do a really pretty pot using this. It happens to be a really pretty napkin, and you can find these really pretty napkins in some of the nice stationery shops. To decoupage, what I have is Mod Podge. You can also use Elmer's glue. I prefer Mod Podge. It does have a tiny bit of an odor, but it does clean up pretty much like Elmer's glue would. I have taken some of the Mod Podge and I have added a tad bit of water to it. So it's not as thick, because when you first use pour out Mod Podge, it's pretty thick. But I wanted it thinner, so I added just a little bit of water, and actually now it's pretty much the consistency of Elmer's glue. When you're Mod Podging, what you can do is find a section that you want to start on your project and get it pretty painted with your Mod Podge material. And then this will be fun to do with students. I always loved doing it when I had young people that I was teaching, and we could just sit and tear up our tissue paper. And I prefer to put 2 layers on, and just put it on and let it stick. Take your fingers and kind of tap it down, and then you come and Mod Podge over the top of it. And that sets it in. I don't worry about whether it's wrinkly or not. I kind of like that effect. And I used to do some big art projects where I would tissue paper entire walls, and I purposely crinkled it for the project that I was doing. For what if a client wanted a surface that looked pretty wrinkly, that's what I would do. Now this piece of tissue paper has a really square edge on the side of it, and I don't want that, so I'm going to kind of rip it and make it a little less noticeable that it had a flat square edge. And again, I've got 2 layers here. When you get down to the lip, this lip area right here, when you put your Mod Podge on, you're going to want to tap it a little bit. Tap it down into that lip. And it may be kind of contrary and not want to do it. But once you get the tissue paper really wet, then it will lay down. So we're going to go all the way around our pot doing that. When you get down here to the bottom, just go ahead and take your tissue paper and let it hang over here. You're going to want to let it hang over about 1/4 of an inch. So see, I've got some hanging over here. As I go ahead and take the Mod Podge over it and set it onto the pot, then when I get down here, I'm going to push the tissue paper right over the lip there. Just like that. And then now it's become part of the top of the pot. Once we have gone all the way around, we're going to let it dry, and then we're going to decorate it. For a little girl's room, I bought just some pretty little stickers, and they can be put all over and kind of just brighten it up. Also, something that you can do that's fun is you can use glitter. And I like to get this glitter, this is called Glitterific, and I like to get this glitter that is actually in the paint section. So you'll find it where you get any of your craft paints, because it's in a, it's already in a sticky kind of paint product. And I can just put a little bit of it into, it's very stiff. And that's why it won't come, it never wants to come out of a hole if you've got a lid that opens up that way. It's just too stiff. So I always take the whole lid off. And then you can mix that directly right into your Mod Podge. I don't know if you can see it in there. And that way you don't have glitter all over your house. And I'll tell you what, glitter to me is just a bane of my existence if I'm trying to do something that I absolutely would not want glitter in, and I've used glitter in my craft room because it's everywhere. And if you've ever done resin work and you have glitter anywhere and you find it in your resin work, it's really frustrating. So I love this. It's really contained. The glitter's all contained in there. What I'm going to do now is I've got glitter in, and you can see the glitter. And when I put my tissue paper on, I'm going to put a little bit of Mod Podge down here. And then I'm going to start bringing my tissue paper down. Like that. And what'll be nice with the glitter being in the Mod Podge already, now when I come over to set the tissue paper in on the pot and make it stick, I'm going to have glitter too. So I've got a nice big pretty piece of glitter there. Let me hold this up so you can see. I hope in the light, there you go, that you can see the pieces of glitter. And the whole pot then, when we're done, will have glitter kind of embedded into the Mod Podge. So I have to tell you guys kind of a funny story. And at the end of this video, you will be able to see a little bit of a blooper that I put there regarding the story. So this is my very first YouTube video. I've always had classes sitting at the table around me whenever I was doing craft projects, and I had a little craft store many years ago and taught classes most evenings, and the students sat just at a table around me. But filming for a YouTube class is a whole different thing, and it is really difficult because when you make a mistake, you want to stop the film, or you've got to keep going back, and it's very, very hard then to do your project. So I had done a whole segment, 20 minutes worth, and had thought that I had filmed just the best, and it was like about my 5th take. And so I was all excited, and I went to stop the camera, and when I went to stop the camera, I actually was turning the camera on. I had gone 20 minutes or more doing what I thought was filming a really nice segment on the fossil pot, and I had not filmed a single thing. So needless to say, I was really frustrated and disappointed, and so that's the blooper at the end of the video. So I apologize if these videos have been kind of strange, and I've had to repeat myself, but that's just me. So I've pretty much decided that teaching these classes, I'm just going to be me, and if I have to repeat myself, pretty soon you guys will understand my style. And also, since we're going to have our own Facebook page, if any of you feel that there's something you didn't understand, I didn't explain it quite right, then just mention it, and I will kind of let you know what maybe you didn't understand and then how to do it. So down here now, I see this isn't sticking really well. I just need to add more Mod Podge, and then I'm going to be pulling that over. So I like how I'm getting a lot of glitter, and the double layer of the tissue paper along with the Mod Podge and the way that it's overlaying each other, it's really doing a nice coverage. I'm only about halfway through the pot though. So I am going to stop the video for a little bit and go ahead and finish this pot. And when I get back, I'll talk about what we're going to do with our fossil pot to make sure it's finished, and then what we're going to do with our little Mod Podge pot and what to finish, how we're going to finish it up. I'll see you back here soon. Well, I'm really pleased with how our pots have turned out. They're both dry, and I've added a few more stickers on the pot. If we were going to use this in a little girl's room, I put some hair brushes, and then I put one of our napkins, our tissue napkin pieces that I cut the flower off. I put one here. You could also put some of the greenery, the leaves along the edge, or you could cover the whole side with these tissue flowers if you wanted to, and it'd be very, very pretty in a powder room. And you'd be able to add some little soaps to it, some little hand towels and things like that. Well, I'm so excited. This was my first YouTube video. It was a tad bit of a struggle, but we made it through it. I'm so glad to have this class with you. Please tell your friends about the class, and please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Also, follow my Facebook page, and that's for our class, and it's Andree's Art and Crafts. And I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye. Okay. Ah! You're kidding me. No way.